Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Diane Kopelakis introduces herself as the Evolved Dietitian. She explains that she adopted this title due to her personal journey of evolving and reforming herself from the nutritional misconceptions that have been prevalent for the past 50 years. She emphasizes the importance of continuous evolution for health professionals to prevent such harm in the future. Diane is a registered and licensed dietitian with 30 years of experience in clinical dietetics, community nutrition, fitness, and corporate wellness. She utilizes her diverse background, including the implementation of various psychosocial models of habit change, to effectively coach individuals and groups in achieving and maintaining their goals. Diane's unique talents lie in her research and training in metabolic health and resilience, which enable her to offer a comprehensive and successful wellness approach. She offers her assistance in improving health and wellness issues through her empowering C.L.E.A.R approach to wellness. Diane provides counseling services to individuals, couples, families, and worksites. You can find Diane on her website at www.theevolveddietitian.com. Diane Kopelakis, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Of course, you're invited. You are wonderful. You have an awesome story. It's so great to follow you on social media and kind of see what you're up to. I know you're mostly on LinkedIn, and I'm very, very rarely on LinkedIn. I don't even really recognize LinkedIn as a social thing, which it really, really, really is. I always just think of it as like, this is where I leave my resume.
It's okay. I mean, some people see it a little bit more social than they should. It should be more of a business networking thing. But
That's funny. Yeah. Wow. Well, at the time of this recording, we're rolling into the colder months of the year, which means I am very jealous of you being in Florida. It's much warmer there than it is around here. That will obviously flip in the summertime when it's way too hot where you are. We're also rolling up into college football season, and you and I were lamenting before getting on this call that the college football playoff season, I should say, that your Florida State football team got snubbed in the playoffs. So dumb.
yeah, seriously. I'm still fuming, but it's okay. It's okay. We'll prevail. They'll have to just prove themselves during the bowl game.
Yep, there you go. At least you made it to a really good bowl game. My beloved Utah Utes did make it to a very good one this year. So congratulations on an undefeated season, and you should have been in the final, and it was fun to kind of catch up on that with you before we got on the call. Again, like I said before, you have a very interesting story, and you've really kind of done a lot and been around a lot in the nutrition industry. So can we go way back to where your interest in nutrition and specifically like health and fitness and all that stuff really began?
Yeah, every question you have, I have like 5 answers for it. So I'll try to make it simple. But I was in college and I decided, I think psychology is the way to go. And then, of course, you're young, you're not quite sure what you want to do. You listen to people, they get in your ear, oh, that's too hard, yada, yada. So I went around and around, thought about psychology, thought about motion picture. I have a little artistic side I like to explore too. Thought about early childhood education, but I had to take a science credit. So I decided, let's take the nutrition class that FSU offers. Loved it. I wanted to keep learning more. Just wanted to keep going, learning more and more and more. And then one of the instructors said, if you want to be an expert in nutrition, you have to become a dietitian. So that's what I believed. And I did it, and I don't regret it. And there are some people saying, why is she acting like that? You'll see as our discussion goes on, probably. And then there's other people that understand it completely, why I laugh at that. But I had a great college career and even worked for a textbook company while I was up there in Tallahassee. Absolutely adored that job, worked at a few different gyms, was a personal trainer for a while, taught aerobics, which is just so funny to me now. And I was very studious, so I had a real good college stint, but with a little fun on the side. And then I had every intention of being a corporate wellness coach. That was my whole intention. So I did the whole internship for dietetics, and I was about to go out and start applying for corporate wellness. But during my internships, I really liked the clinical side of things. I really liked flipping through the medical record a little too much because I was like the detective and I wasn't the doctor. So I liked it a little too much. But how can you give good medical or nutrition advice if you don't know everything that's going on? Sometimes I felt like I knew more that was going on with the patient because I really absorbed everything that was in the chart and actually spoke to the patient more than the nurses and the doctors. Not all, but yeah. So I really love the clinical aspects, the detective like work and speaking with the patients. But in the back of my head, there was a little bit of sadness and lack of fulfillment because I was seeing some of the same patients that we called repeat offenders come through the doors. I'm like, okay, we just had this full-on nutritional consult. You're here, your sugars are high, you're losing limbs, your teeth are falling out. What's going on? And I still remember this one guy, young kid. I think he had type 1, but still, type 2 was more common when I was being consulted for them in the hospital, at least. He was disintegrating before my eyes. He would lose some toes, his foot, lower leg, upper leg, along with the teeth falling out. He may have had some other things going on too with addiction, pills and things like that. But that I'll never forget him. But then there's other people along the way as well that would look at me like, Diane, you're giving me, I don't even eat half of these carbohydrates. You're telling me that this food guide pyramid says that I could eat. I can have 12 or 6 to 12 slices of bread per this. What's going on here? And so over time, my satisfaction to me is helping people. So obviously, if I'm not helping people, it's not working out. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I need to become a doctor. Maybe at least a PA. But I never really went that route. And it's so funny. Like every year I'm looking up different programs. But I realized, what am I going to do different? Now I know what I should have been doing, but I wasn't allowed to do in the hospital. And we can get into that. I'm sure you have some questions there. Now I know I don't need to go to medical school. I know exactly what I need to do with my patients or clients. So we have a lot to get into.
Yeah.
Did I stir up
Wow.
any questions yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so interesting how you got into things, and it's a very common story as well, that like you get into this because you want to help people and you see people not being helped. Like, what was your thought at the time? I know eventually you got the right information from somebody that you and I both look up to very much, like Dr. Jason Fung, and he talks about blaming the victim. So I want to ask you about that. As you saw these people deteriorating, literally, I love that you use the word disintegrating, which is so sad. As this person is like going away, getting chopped up, like terrible.
Mhm.
Were you thinking like, wow, these people really suck at following the advice?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Mm,
There's something they're not telling me. Yep.
yeah.
Not the whole time, but during the first few years, absolutely. Um, and of course, I felt it from the doctors as well. And I felt like maybe I wasn't doing my job. Maybe I'm not using what I studied in school, because I also didn't just study nutrition. I studied psychology and psychosocial aspects of behavior change. I'm like, what am I not doing? Of all people, I should be able to do it. It was my recommendations. It was the recommendations that I was giving them that I had to give. I didn't realize they were wrong at the time. There's something called the Florida Manual of Dietetics. And I think almost every state has their own manual that clinical institutions have to abide by. So all of our policies and procedures in the hospital were based on what was in that guide. And God, it was so lovely. You just copy some pages and you hand it out. Of course, I was always one that wanted to explain things, and I thought I was better at doing that. I was a good dietitian because I explained it. And you know what's crazy? This was what when someone says, how did you evolve and how did that look? It wasn't a direct line. It was, and then towards the last few years, it was boop, 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 in a good way. The first few years, I would hear people, patients, they were teaching me things. They would say, like I said before, Diane, I don't even eat half of these carbohydrates. Another patient would say, I'm doing keto and I'm feeling great.
Wow.
But I would always find a reason. Oh, well, you're also cutting your calories, or you're also doing this. So, and you're also started exercising. You always find an excuse for them for their success. It couldn't possibly be that you're cutting your carbs. So, those little bits were wearing on me, and I always kept them in my head. But still, I had my blinders on like crazy. And I think some of that is just protective, because if that's true, then everything I'm doing is wrong. Almost everything. Because and when you're in the hospital, you're mostly sought after. Yeah, you're sought after for small little things like low residue diet while someone's, just had a GI, some kind of stomach issue or surgery, but mainly it's weight loss, diabetes, and heart disease.
Yeah.
And guess what? They all have something in common, which I didn't realize. And it's funny because while I would be educating the person, I would say something, but the receptors on the cell, yada yada, and then something would come through, and I'd be like, wait a minute, is that true? I'm like, if that's true, then why am I telling them to have all these carbohydrates? And I'd have to go look it up. I'm like, is this like something from the heavens coming through? Or is this my old physiology that I learned originally in school coming through? And little by little, I started to pick up pieces where I'm like, I don't know if they need all these carbohydrates. So I started to slowly change my recommendations so I didn't get in trouble, because when someone's in the hospital, I don't see them even when they get there. It's generally when there's a consult. And so, and then we would follow up if they stayed there long enough. Well, if I gave somebody some education written out, another dietitian might see it there the next time they followed up because we didn't always keep the same patients, depended on the day. If someone saw that I gave them a lower carbohydrate diet, I could really get in trouble.
Yeah.
So I had to justify, and I had to be really creative with how I worded it. And so I started doing that 5+ years into my dietitianhood of 20 years of the hospital. And I was still seen as the black sheep dietitian. I think amongst other dietitians. But I didn't get in trouble, so that was good. But I was really worried because there are governing agencies that come in to check to make sure that the hospital is, doing their thing appropriately. And there's something called our policies and procedures that they compare. They would actually look at various medical records of patients and follow the patient's journey and make sure that each department was following what we say we do. And we did. But I was really scared that a little unimportant dietitian that the doctors hardly read any notes from was going to get the whole entire hospital in trouble, because I didn't believe that they really needed as many carbohydrates as the exchange list said they did. So we have this fear hanging over us, or at least some dietitians like me. Then I realized as I got older, I'm like, you know what? If I lose my license, it's not the end of the world. I can still help people. Actually, I'll have less handcuffs. So I started to get a little bit more liberal, and just put it in the patient's hands, said, please do research on this, please do research on that, and see how you feel, and give me a call anytime. So I just had to get really creative with how I did it. But But then you see other things in the hospital where you're just like, oh, so you really have to put your blinders on a little bit just to survive when you feel like you know a little bit more about metabolic health than the typical doctors and nurses there. And it sounds, God, it sounds so pretentious and stuck up. And that's what I was worried about with my social handle, the Evolved Dietitian. I'm still evolving, by the way. We should always be evolving. It should be ING, not ED. I was really worried about that. Calling myself the Evolved Dietitian. Oh, she's so special. But I use it as an icebreaker to say, okay, this is because I call myself the black sheep dietitian. I'm a little different than other dietitians, and this is why. And I hope you appreciate that about me. So let me help you. So that's, yeah, long story long.
Yeah, no, that's great. You mentioned resistance, and I've mentioned this recently on the show that like I remember getting sent an article with Nina Teicholz about when she released her book, The Big Fat Surprise. It wasn't an article, it was an interview that she gave on a news radio thing. And I listened to it in 2014 when it came out, and I really liked it. I listened to it like 2 or 3 times. But when I saw on my Facebook a few months ago, I didn't even pick up the book and start reading it until 2016. And I attribute it to the same reason, that resistance. I've learned for all of my career that we practice this certain way, and you need grains, and you need the fruits and vegetables, and you need lean meats, and fat's bad. And like I had that same feeling, like if she's right, I'm a little bit screwed. And even later than that, I ended up getting my certification to do nutrition coaching. And it's always fair to point out, nutrition coach is very different than a dietitian. The pros and cons for each. You're way, way, way smarter than I am. I'm not beholden to the same kind of pressure that you are. So there's pros and cons, and people, if they listen to me, they might listen to some of my quackery, and they can make their own decisions. But I was taught the same thing that you were. You mentioned like the psychosocial stuff. We were taught behavior change. And it's like somebody would come in after 2 weeks of failing their diet, and we would say like, okay, did you not journal your feelings? Did you not eat all your rainbow of fruits and vegetables? Did you eat until you were 80% full in all of your meals? And there's always something. You can always find something that you didn't do exactly right.
Yep.
And you can just pick at that, and you're always right.
And I notice, like, even if I go to the doctor and I'll say something, and I can see and feel their same exact perception, I'm like, oh my God, I used to do that. It's so frustrating. You know what? You want to see something funny? I don't know if you know this about me.
Oh, what is that?
I think it's similar to what you used in your gym.
Oh, indirect telemetry. Yeah. Nice. Wow.
I 2002. I needed some excitement because I was in the hospital not feeling fulfilled. And there was a Mead Johnson rep who I befriended, and she just, I like your personality. We have a new project going on. I didn't know it was a short-term thing. We really like, let's do some training, and you can sell this device that measures calories indirectly. It measures CO2, and there's an algorithm, and it maintains a respiratory quotient of 0.85. Not that that's true for everybody, obviously, but in other words, it basically gives you a roundabout idea of how many calories you're burning at the moment. And of course, that was the moneymaker. That was amazing, because dietitians, they're mathematicians. We're constantly with the calculator figuring out proteins, carbs. I mean, that's the one thing we feel like we can give to the doctor that they don't have time for, right? We feel great that we can be their mathematician. But now I don't even figure out people's calorie needs. And that's just craziness to some people.
Yeah.
How
Wow.
do you now deal with, remember all the stuff you used to do
Oh,
in your...
I was just, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I liked you before. Now I really like you. We can jam out on calorimetry. I loved using that stuff, and it was so interesting to. I think evolve is the perfect word. Like when we were first taught some of this stuff, we really were just talking about calories, right? You burn this many calories. Let me take some macros, and here's 40%, 30% protein, 40% carbohydrate, maybe 30% fat. That looks like this. And you got to match these up. And then let's take this slider. And this means if you eat 500 calories less, that's 1 pound a week you're going to lose. And that's going to be super linear. And we can add 500 calories of calorie burn. Now you're going to lose 2 pounds a week. And that's going to be super linear. You just get to your target weight and you're done. It's easy.
It just sounds so stupid to me now. It sounds so ridiculous, doesn't it?
Crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, what did you learn over time? Like, how did you use that? And did that change your mind on your coaching over time?
You mean the use of this?
Yeah, like I guess specifically, like, did you learn anything about diets in particular, especially very calorie restricted diets? Did you notice that would like give you different results on the test?
Yeah, I noticed people who would cut down on their calories and not necessarily pay attention to their carbohydrates, their metabolic rate lowered. I wonder why, especially when they went low fat, because what did they eat in replace of that?
Yeah.
Carbohydrates. Actually, I remember an interesting time where I worked in a gym in Wellington. This new guy came, new trainer. He wanted to meet me, and they hired him. And within weeks, he had people dropping weight. I'd been there a few months, maybe a year or so. He had people dropping fat pounds. I mean, he had before and after pictures, and I couldn't believe it. So he sat me down and he gave me a consult. And guess what he discussed? This was 2002 or 3. Insulin. So he said I need a dietitian to sign off on this dietary regimen that I'm promoting. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I didn't realize just how low he was going with the carbs. And of course, now I'd be like, hell, bring it on. I'll sign off on it. But back then I was terrified. So after a few that I signed off on, and I put little like disclaimers on because I was shaking in my boots, so I was going to get in trouble and someone's going to get hurt. These people looked amazing. They would drop 50 pounds and get a 6-pack within a few months. And I wouldn't tell people, oh, don't do it, because I didn't want to get in trouble with the trainer or admin. But I did go to admin and I said, I'm really scared. I said, what do you think about it? And they agreed. And I was like, oh God. So he didn't last there long. And I don't think it was me. I don't know. I hope not. God, I still remember his name. I'm going to have to look him up. But holy shit, my evolution delayed 20 years because I kept my eyes and ears shut and brain shut. So there was other little things, like I also met a naturopath at that same gym during a wellness fair. And in Florida, naturopath doesn't really mean anything, but you can call yourself it. There's no like licensure, so it's good and bad. So you're not regulated, which is good and bad. But if you don't know who you're going to, that could be bad. Anyway, he was not someone I should have been going to, but I learned a lot, but I went off on the wrong track because of it. He was pretty fascinating. He got me off of grains. I actually opened my mind enough to see him because I heard him at the vending table next door, and I was like, that makes a little bit of sense. Oh, and then I bumped into a lady who had been to him in the bathroom, and she goes, oh my gosh, all my allergies are gone since seeing him, yada yada. So I thought, let me give him a try. He offered me a free consult. I saw him within weeks. My allergies, and gosh, we didn't even get to all my, this will be another video, another podcast, but all my health stuff. I had a lot of health issues going on. So I saw him, took out the grains, but I also took out the meat. But I felt fantastic. Now I know it was the grains. But then I thought, being a vegan, I was a very strict vegan. Even when I went raw food vegan, even a little fruitarian for a while, just to see what it was like. because I heard such great things about it. And then I started to feel like an old woman a year or two into it. I couldn't even close the gate of my truck. I was like, what's going on? I tried to get my, do my correct food combining for my proteins, and I could eat a lot. So it wasn't not eating enough. I could eat a lot
You'd
because I'd
have
also have
to.
hyperthyroid.
You would
Huh?
have to get to the protein you need. You'd have to eat a lot.
It's
It's
crazy. It
absurd.
was crazy. So that helped my evolution a lot, because when I started adding a little bit more meat in, I felt fantastic. I felt more normal. Of course, I also let more grains in, so went the other way. Not the other way, but I was still healthier than I had been while I was a vegan. God, I can't believe it's so weird saying that. I was a vegan. Nothing against people who are vegans, but I don't love that lifestyle anymore. I love what it stands for, and I would love to not hurt another soul, but I
Agreed.
have to take care of this soul, and I have to eat what I thrive on. So I do see it differently now. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
I'm talking a lot.
You're the guest.
I
You're
know
a
you feel like
podcast guest. You should talk.
so I did go through some other health issues, but not because of the meat. I found out it was because I brought in more of the grains again, because I thought I had to keep my calories up. So, and of course I couldn't have the fat, so I had to eat the grains. And so I had some major thyroid issues going on, hence my large eyes. Not everybody with hyperthyroid has the eye issue, but I didn't just get larger eyes. There was some stress involved here with a relationship too. So, one eye went one way, and the other eye went the other way. So I was walking around with some sunglasses for a while, and I
Wait, literally, I've
saw,
never heard of this. I've never heard of
oh my,
this.
oh, it's thyroid eye disease, but my eyes weren't equal. It was a cruel joke. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this?
Wow.
One eye was larger because the musculature of the eye changes, and still I had this eye opens up a little bit more. It always had. I look back at pictures and I realize I've always had it. I mean, everyone has a little, well, yours seem perfect, but some people, like even my face is a little lopsided, but anyway, let's cover that. So I felt like wearing a bag over my head. But
Goodness.
I did wear sunglasses because it was just utterly embarrassed. I still worked full time. People were very understanding, and you're your own worst enemy. But the stress of it added more fuel to my eye inflammation fire. But it actually calmed down. Well, I went to the endocrinologist for help for my hyperthyroid. I got all the testing done, and he said, well, okay, we have to, and I knew it was coming, and I was like, oh, no, no, no. We're gonna have to burn your thyroid, give you the medication to burn it. And I said, well, I already knew from the many years in the hospital what happens to somebody who does that. And not that I can't help somebody with this, and don't feel bad if you've had it done, but I didn't want it for me, especially when I already had some background or experience with alternative medicine. And by that time, I had a child with autism who was greatly helped through Chinese medicine. So
Mm.
I'm pro Chinese medicine big time. So I thought, I'm gonna get some help via Chinese medicine. So I went to the doctor though, because he wanted to follow up with me and tell me my results of the thyroid test. You have hyperthyroid. We want to burn it. And I said, well, okay, can you give me some time though? Because I'd like to work on it on my own. I'm going to try some alternative medicine, and I'll come back, get some labs done, and then we'll discuss. Okay. And he said, nope. I was flabbergasted. And I said, what do you, like, why? And he said, you're going to ruin my study.
What?
So he would rather ruin my thyroid then ruin his study. What the
Wow.
hell? West Palm Beach endocrinologist. He's probably retired by now. Yeah, I ran. So I ran to my doctor of Chinese medicine. Amazing man. Thomas Santucci, by the way, look him up in Boca Raton. He got me out of it. And there's other stuff, but that's for another video. I swear there's so much. But yeah, I went down back with the grains. Started jogging a little bit. I had to go on a thyroid pill for a month and a half just so I could walk because my thyroid was so, oh wait, God, no. I kind of jumped a little bit. I saw that doctor, Chinese medicine doctor, got better. And then I swung the other way a few years later when I liberalized my Chinese medicine. Gosh, I gained 60 pounds in 6 months. I did meet a guy. All the doctors said it was because you're in love. But I did stop working out as much and I liberalized my diet more. So I realized I was 42 and I think I got a little bit of a fatty liver. Finally, all my being able to eat everything. I could eat anything before this. I was a stick figure. And then I think my liver was feeling it though. And I was just that kind of prototype at the time where I could eat, but it was still affecting my liver. And then some insulin resistance occurred, especially when you stop doing the exercise. Hello. And I'm a little different when it comes to a lot of the practitioners out there. I think you can mitigate a lot of insulin resistance through exercise. I do. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you should eat like crap, but I think that once we stop moving, this shit hits the fan harder.
Yeah, helps a lot.
I really do. Huh?
Yeah, it helps a lot for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it mitigates so much. I mean, if you're bringing down your glucose, your insulin doesn't have to go as high, and then you don't get as resistant, right? So anyway, I went to the doctor, and I did accept a medication, which I don't like doing. For about a month and a half, I felt good enough to get outside and jog. So I just ran, not to get the calories off, but just to feel like myself again, because I used to be in track when I was younger. And I knew that if I could run, I could feel like myself again. And I don't love running either. I just knew that it would make me feel better if I did it. And I did it. And I stopped the greens. So I did slightly low carb and I had some results. So that was another part of my evolution. Like, oh, it's working a little bit. But it didn't work completely. And maybe a little perimenopause over the years made it a little bit more difficult. That plus becoming a caregiver for my parents at the same time and not wanting to lose my new husband with the 2 kids and a new job. I started working at the healthcare district as a coach. I finally became a coach 20, 30 years after my original plan, right? So I had a lot of stress, but the weight loss slowed down a lot. So I was like, well, I can only go so low with the carbs. I still wasn't completely comfortable with going. I still wasn't okay with the word ketosis. And then there was this beautiful woman, one of the employees that I would bump into at work where I was a coach. And she was, oh, Diane, I got it. And she was all about being on ketones. And I'm not that far. I believe in ketosis and making your own. Not that you can't use some external for certain things, but sure. I really believe in using your body to do most of the work. But she was looking great. And she had some other people on, doing the diet at work. And I have to tell her, I just bumped into her a few months ago. I need to tell her that she really helped open my mind up again. So there was a whole bunch of little things. And then I had an emotional session with somebody and the sites that I worked at where I was a coach. I had like 13 different sites I went to. So I was always being ping-ponging back and forth. And so I had a lot of time in the car to listen to YouTube. So after an emotional session with a woman. She just was dealing with this weight for the longest time. I was like, oh God, I'm going to help this girl. I mean, obviously I want to help everybody, but for some reason I was like, she's been through so much. I can't fail her. Everyone else is failing her. I cannot do this anymore. I've got to see the before and after. I've always wanted to have before and after pictures. At least not for me, but for them. I wanted success for everybody. And so with the keto girl and the people not feeling successful and some other little things in the background that I already told you about, a doctor 2 years ago, God, I even tell you this story. Are you okay with my branches here? My rabbit
Absolutely.
holes? Okay. So, and I told somebody else this on a podcast before, so it might seem a little repetitive if someone heard it, but I think it was a few years into my dietitianhood, this very well-respected pulmonologist came to me during lunchtime, where I was at the salad bar every day at the salad bar as a young dietitian. He came to me, he said, Diane, I don't know if you noticed, but I lost some weight. I feel great. And I'm like, oh my God, great. Like, how'd you do it? Atkins. And I said, oh. And now I look back and I need to look this guy up and apologize. Because my young self, my young dietitian self said, oh my God, what are you going to do? Careful your heart. And now it's just, I'm so embarrassed I said that. And I can tell he just went, oh God, and just left. He just walked away and he never talked to me again. And I don't blame him. So he was part of my evolution as well. So with all of this, I actually said, I'm going to try it. So long story, very long. My parents did finally transition. Long, hard road, but I had a house that I had to empty out. And in one of the videos I heard during my going back and forth between my sites that I worked at, I heard Jason Fung. He was probably the most instrumental person that I heard on YouTube, followed directly by Ken Berry in the same half hour, the same driving trip. It hit me so hard, and I credit those two the most for getting me where I'm at today. And it's a more evolved dietitian. So Dr. Jason said, and I'd even wondered this myself, when you're sleeping, your body feeds you. So he says, why is it we don't die while we're sleeping? Why do we feel that we have to eat every few hours, but yet we can sleep for 8? And I used to think, well, it's because we're not moving around. Like, you'd make these excuses in your head. And directly after that cool video, the first one I've ever seen with Dr. Jason Fung, there was Ken Berry, in your face, Berry. And he just cracked me up because, well, the most instrumental thing he said was, if you have type 2, and I have to do it with a little accent. Sorry, doc, if it's not very good, but this is what got me. It was very endearing, and he was like a real person, not just someone stuck in the ivory tower. He was in the trenches working with patients, saying, if you're a type 2 diabetic, you make insulin. You do not need to take it. So if your doctor is giving you insulin, run. And I was like, holy shit, he's right. And then all this stuff came back to me like, oh my God, what have I been doing? It was a very emotional day for me. And at that point, I was like, oh no. So I made this, actually I made a cute little acronym, but it was low carb. I still had to say it in the correct way so I didn't get in trouble, because the medical director of where I worked, because it was a health company, she was a doctor, And I didn't want to get in trouble by telling the patients, go low carb, go keto, keto, keto. So I just had to say something like therapeutic levels of carbohydrate. And so when I heard Low Carb USA use that, I was like, yes. I just had to be creative, use creative writing. So I had an acronym called SIMPLE, and I just listed out sunshine. I forgot what it even stands for. I should have trademarked it, but I trademarked other stuff since. And that was where I really, really felt like I was free and I could be me, because I knew there are other people out there like you and all these other doctors I now listen to, and Ben Bickman, Robert Sivis, Robert Lustig. I love this tribe that we have. I don't want it to be a cult, because I was there. I was in the vegan cult for a while, and nothing against the people that are vegans. But I've been there, and you can feel better, by the way. And that's my long story long evolution. And I still evolve every day. I'm now into, before it was learning all about how insulin and what impacts insulin even more so than carbohydrates, but that's the main one, and also ultra processed food. But my favorite thing to look at right now is uric acid and all the things that set off our survival mechanism. And it's not that uric acid is bad, but it indicates your body's desire to survive. And so why is that? Why are we threatening our body? Well, dehydration, or just too much sodium per the water, stress, and things like that. So that's where I'm at right now. And I'm helping people better than I've ever helped people before. I just got an amazing call from somebody yesterday. It made me cry. And it wasn't the patient. The patient is always sweet and sends me texts about how good she's doing. But it was the chiropractor of the patient who called me and just said, I just bumped in, or just saw so-and-so today. The way she looked, it amazes me. You've done such a great job. I just wanted to give you a heads up that I really appreciate your work. And wow. Yeah, like he said it even a more eloquent way, and then Merry Christmas. And I just cried because we need to support each other. And so we just don't, or we do. I think our tribe does, but I don't get that a lot. And it's so nice. I mean, I don't do what I do for that. I do it to help people. But wow, was that just nice. So I can't wait to give him a call. I can't believe I waited so long, but I'm going to give him a call soon.
Wow. What a story. And you're right, like this tribe, like once you go around to some of these health conferences, you mentioned Low Carb USA, you attend some of theirs, and Low Carb Denver, and it's just an amazing community. And I found nothing but love and support and kindness and sharing. And you talk about all these big names and Dr. Ken Berry, and he is no different in person than he is on his videos. He will chat you up. He'll ask about you. He cares. He's so kind. It's really awesome. I love that about the tribe. Your story is so unique also because you're kind of experiencing your own personal transformation as you're starting to help other people. And so what was that like for the first time in your career, not only to heal yourself, but start to see that everything you were looking for in your career, I want to help people, I want to see people get better. After all those years, finally, something seems to be working. What does that feel like?
It feels amazing. But I also feel like, God damn, if I wasn't so hard-headed in the beginning, I wouldn't have taken this long to evolve. The fact that I didn't have weight on me to lose early on, I think delayed my progress with my career and helping other people, because I was working out. I thought it was my working out mainly that was keeping me in shape or thinner, but it was also my hyperthyroid. I mean, it was subclinical. It wasn't to where another endocrinologist I did see, I forgot to mention that, he says it's subclinical, your thyroid's fine, it's not to the point of burning. I think it delayed it, because it's like someone with great skin saying, who uses a product, they're going to say it's their product that's making them have beautiful skin when they might have had beautiful skin without the product. everything I was doing, I thought was why I was in good shape. I mean, I was working out, but when you have hyperthyroid, you don't have to do much to burn. I could eat more than my brother and dad combined. So that delayed me, but it felt great once I did realize it, except all the people I feel like I let down all these
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So I mean, not that I could have done a lot because I was constrained with my the policies and procedures that I had to follow. But yeah, I feel bad, but it makes me more passionate about helping
Right.
people now,
Right.
really.
It's learning that lesson and learning that we can't really go back, but we can use that
Mhm.
information now to kind of share that message with people. The
Yeah.
uric acid thing is very interesting. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I'll try. It's pretty fresh in my mind right now, or in my wheelhouse. But basically, oh God, uric acid is a byproduct of our metabolism of certain things like purines, and they come from meat. But that's all we would remember or realize from the literature. So if the doctor says, oh, usually we talk about it in terms of gout. So like an
Sure.
arthritic pain in your toe or finger, the doctor would say, hey, Diane, he needs a low purine diet. You know, he's got gout. Go help the person. So I'd say too much meat and alcohol. The guys who do, and girls, but it was usually men that had this, we're most people eat meat, so you can't say you don't eat meat. So, oh, that must be it. And a lot of people have alcohol. Okay, just take those two out. Sometimes it would help, sometimes it wouldn't. A lot of times it wouldn't. And no, there was a guy that should have helped me with my evolution there. He'd say, not that this is everything, but he'd say tart cherry extract changed my world. So that it does help, by the way, if you're listening. But when it comes to uric acid, it's not just meat, because there's DNA in meat. Yeah, there's it's flesh. When you break it down, it breaks down into purines, and we have to clear them, and they can build up if we don't clear them. But there's a whole world. Was it Richard Bernstein and David Perlmutter? I hope I'm getting their names right. A whole world of information that either we didn't know or we ignored, but it's getting more and more popular now, thank God. But I don't know if it is with the typical modern medicine doctor. But listen up, doctors and dietitians. There's other reasons we have uric acid in our bloodstream. When we lose weight, we break apart some of our bodily tissues. That's DNA, that's purines. Oh, it doesn't mean we should stop losing weight, but to me, that has something to do with our set point, because it elicits uric acid. Well, I mean, uric acid elicits insulin resistance on purpose. It's a survival mechanism, because if we're breaking down our body too much, that alerts the body, whoa, Nelly, let's be a little bit more resistant so we can retain some fat. Because when your body is not listening to insulin, when insulin goes up, and when insulin goes up, your body doesn't burn your fat. Well, we see it so one-sidedly, like, oh, that's bad. No, that's beautiful. Your body is so amazing. It has so many survival mechanisms as through which uric acid assists us. So uric acid isn't bad. It can just indicate that there's an issue, and we can use it to our advantage. If it's going up, it tells us there's something going on, whether maybe you are hitting alcohol too much, maybe you're hitting your fructose too much, which Bernstein is so good at explaining. I saw one of his talks at, I think it was Low Carb Denver, maybe even in Boca, can't remember. But he mentioned the foraging. Sorry if you hear dogs in the background. He mentioned the little fruits on the trees in the fall or late summer that some of the animals will start munching on, noshing on, and how it elicits insulin resistance, which is a beautiful thing when winter is coming, so that you can gain a little bit of weight. And when you parallel that with the recommendations we used to give for noshing here and there, having a little bit of a snack here and there, which I used to say to keep you from getting too hungry so you don't overeat at your meal. Oh my God. To keep the calories down, that's just craziness. And if it's craziness, that means you need to talk to Casey or myself, and we'll help you out with your diet. So, yeah, uric acid, it's a survival mechanism that helps us with increasing, not pathological, well, sometimes pathological, but good physiological insulin resistance to survive. But with our ready-made foods, our high fructose corn syrup, and our eating all the time, becomes pathophysiological, it becomes disease. So we don't need to survive in that way anymore. We need to look up Jason Fung and Ken Berry again. Yeah. Fasting is the way to go. So what I stand for now is I look at individuals, I see what's going on, and I see what their biggest issues are. We make those a priority. And as time goes on, especially with weight loss, as time goes on, they start slowing down, then I'll usually start getting more stricter with other things as needed, or like I'll make sure they check their uric acid. And in few people, it is the stopgap. It is what's delaying their progress when they got everything else in order. A lot of people don't realize when they get to their weight and they're not doing their fructose, but they're doing a little bit of glucose. They're bringing it back in, but they're not realizing is that glucose can turn into fructose and set off this whole polyol pathway again that elicits insulin resistance. So you don't even have to take the fructose in to increase your uric acid. You can actually take in more glucose than you need. So when people say it's easy, it is easy. No, I should say it's simple. The diet recommendations are simple, but all the processes in the background, it's not that easy. There's a lot going on, and we're finding out more and more every day. And that's why it's so exciting to see what the latest is, going to all these conventions. So I really, really suggest, if you are interested, not even if you're just a practitioner, especially practitioners, you better go to these things. But if you're just a layperson who's interested in your health, look up, gosh, I'm forgetting the actual name, but it's the Metabolic Health Society for Metabolic Health. They have the low carb talks. One's in Boca coming up this January. And there's also the Keto Summit in Orlando, and I'm sure you know a million more. The Low Carb Denver. So there's also one in, I think, Clearwater coming up in January as well. Are you going to be going to any soon?
I tried to find the best flights and hotels, and it was just so much to take off of work and fly to the East Coast. So I'll probably miss those, but I'll hit the ones around me. I went to San Diego this year. It was absolutely wonderful. Denver's not too far away, so I'll have to stay a little bit more regional this year. I would love to though, especially
I get it. I told my husband. Oh, what? I cut you off? What?
No, especially in January when it's cold around here. I would love to go to Florida.
And it's a little stressful because in January, that's my time. That's when I get my people. That's when I get a lot of people. So it's going to be quite a juggle. But I already signed up for them all. I signed up for 2 of them in January. But and I also have my own stuff going on. I have some specials, and I'm about to. Hopefully, I'll get it done in time. But I have what I call the Metabolic Enhancement Program, MEP, where I have everything on Thinkific, something online, not just classes, but videos you can pay for that are streamlined for what you need. Well, basically what a person who wants to lose weight and get their metabolic health in shape can use. But then I always recommend an individualized session because there are other little variables that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
I always push exercise.
Yeah.
You'd be proud of me.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's a huge part of what can make somebody healthy, and it's difficult in the beginning if you're not already like feeling well to go and exercise. But once you start feeling well, you're eating a little better, you'd be shocked at how much people like want to go exercise and they feel good and they just start craving it and they do it on their own. So I love that you added that component. I love that you went into uric acid. That can be really confusing and complicated for people. And I've even seen several times that like somebody that has had gout goes low carb, starts eating more protein, and it's maybe like 3 to 6 months after they change, they might have a little bit of a flare, but it's like that dragon one last kind of time until it like drops off completely.
Yeah, that happened to me actually. And then it just went away. And that was before I realized I could do little things like cherry extract and things like that. And yeah, so that brings up another very important topic. When someone goes carnivore or keto, there's some things that can happen. Of course, I always have a disclaimer. I have a funny sheet with the report that I make for my clients saying, watch out, these things might happen to you. You might lose some, waist inches, yada, yada. And I get funny, but then I get serious saying, FYI, you might experience some kind of like detox symptoms or, what do you call them? Not loading, dumping things like, not dumping syndrome, but things like an accumulation of uric acid. When you lose weight, uric acid will increase. That can increase gout. And then of course they're going to blame it. Some people will blame it on the meat.
Right.
Where if you lower your meat, maybe, but you're going to lose your muscle, and that's not going to help. So there's ways to get around that for sure. And you're going to get through it. And it's not directly because of the food. It's because you're making changes and your body's responding. But I always like to give little disclaimers like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And if you prepare them, they're not going to be as bad. It's quite interesting because there's a few different types of clients or patients we can have. It's ones that'll be like, oh, it's okay, I got this. And others that'll say, I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. And they're very resistant. So you really have to, maybe that psychology degree I went to school for originally, I should have I should have really gone through that route as well, because there's some interesting barriers that we have to get through to really help people. But I want you to know, the more you feed your body what it needs, your body will work it out.
Yep. Such a good point. I love that. That's such a good point. And it's so well explained. I love that you explain that up front so people have those expectations. This has been an awesome chat. I've learned a ton from you. I love your story. It's very inspirational. Diane, where can people go to find you and connect with you and your work?
Well, thank you for asking. Thank you again for this opportunity. You're very, very sweet. But they can find me on any a lot of the social media areas, all the main ones. It's going to be the Evolved Dietitian. That's my handle, my stuck up handle, but now you know where it comes from. I think it's Twitter where it's Evolved RD, because that's what fit for the handle on Twitter. And my website is theevolveddietitian.com. So come visit me.
Awesome. That sounds great. Your website is great, by the way. You've got tons of really good content. I love the quiz that you have on there, and I'm just blown away by all the different things. Obviously, like if you've been in this world for a while, you understand that insulin resistance can cause so many different issues, but really seeing the list that you put on there is quite comprehensive and really eye-opening. We'll definitely have to have you back sometime to discuss some other things that you're really interested in. It'll be a lot of fun. But then again, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you and your work, and that you are continuing to evolve. You're evolving, even though your title is the Evolved Podcast. You've gotten to a certain place, but that's not the end, and you're continuing to learn and share your message. So thank you so very much for everything you've shared with us today. Thank you for coming on our show. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Casey. Thank you, everybody, and let's evolve together.
I love it. That's great. I love it. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.